Bridging the gap is where people do want to invest in the private assets, but they're not able to for a few reasons, for a few good reasons, right? One is they do not want to put in the ticket size that people ask them to put down $1 million, $2 million.
High net worth?
Yeah, high net worth or ultra high net worth can afford it, but high net worth cannot do it, and mass affluent cannot do it. So they would like to invest at $10,000 or $20,000 denominations. The second thing is they want liquidity on demand. They do not want to wait 9 years and 10 years for the asset or the underlying asset to be something to happen, whether it's sold or it's liquidated. They want liquidity on demand, so they do want transparency on the underlying valuation so that they can trade it. So that's where digital assets come into play. That's where distribution comes into play. And the last thing they want is continuous mark to markets. They want to know what the underlying value of the asset is so that when it does trade in the digital asset exchange, it's closer to the actual value of that asset as opposed to what we call as DLOM, discount because of lack of marketability and transparency. So there's transparency on the valuation. If there's, you can double click the token or digital asset and go all the way down. It tells you what the value of the asset is. You are in a better position and a better state to actually trade your token or trade that digital asset more near the fair market value than it's now.
I know that you have a deep background in expertise in tokenization, in blockchain, in crypto. Maybe on a very high level, explain what is tokenization. Can you start there and educate us?
Sure. So let's go back a little bit. Interval funds in America and the so-called interval fund kind of like structures in Canada are a stepping stone toward digital assets. What is digital assets? It's two assets, right? Crypto and real world assets where you're informing. So tokenization is fractionalizing the value of that underlying asset and offering it to the retail public or to qualified investors, whoever they are, at a certain nominal value so that they can actually buy into it and have got transparency on the underlying asset. So the tokenization is a method, is a means to an end to make that asset available to the marketplace. And the digital asset exchange is where, just like New York Stock Exchange, where these tokens can be traded. Blockchain, so when you talk about blockchain, when you talk about DeFi, when you talk about AI, a combination of all these are means to an end. These are not an end, right? These are technologies that can help scale on the private asset side for people to invest in private assets and get the transparency, get the liquidity, on-demand liquidity, get the mark-to-markets. So these technology make those things platform available or make the platform accessible and available to people. So these three technologies are required because the current public markets technologies and processes cannot sustain a 5 to 6 time fold of the valuation. So if you look at the private alts, it's about 600, 500 to 700 trillion, depending on who you read. Public markets are only about 85 trillion. So to support that level of investments, or even a fraction of that, you do require different technologies and you do require different transparency and you do require technology that gives price discovery to people.
I appreciate that explanation. As head of Americas at Apex Group, this has become a big initiative through Apex Digital 3.0. Why is this important to you?
It's important to me because I think the future is going to be very different. The democratization of alpha, the retailization, or you can call it mutualization of people being able to invest in private assets, starting with interval funds going to digital asset, is going to be the path forward. There's $8 to $12 trillion worth of high net worth individuals who want to deploy that much of capital into alts, according to Preqin, but they're not able to deploy it because of all the limitations like lack of transparency, lack of being able to get liquidity, lack of able to do it in smaller denominations, and lack of mark-to-market on the underlying assets. So once you solve for these things, you're there. So I think those investors, when they come in, what you're doing is you're democratizing alpha. You're allowing the have-nots to participate in a have economy that is generating alpha.
And Apex Group is helping to facilitate that from a compliance and transparency point of view, or does it extend far beyond that?
So what Apex is doing is, like we do in fund admin and everything else, we are anticipating this demand and we're building the platform with the right technologies in place, regulated or unregulated, depending on the jurisdiction, so that when the client does come to us and saying, we do want to tokenize, we do want to take a fund, like we did for Hamilton Lane about a year and a half ago, we are able to support them and deploy them with an end-to-end solution. Because as this is a new area, a lot of people are wanting someone to be the, how do you call it, the master contractor, where they can take you through the full journey and also provide a platform or most of the platform that can allow them to go through the full journey on digital assets.